One flower is so significant to the Anglo world that it has three separate days in which the flower is worn in remembrance of the millions of soldiers who have fallen or been injured for their countries. Those days are April 25th, Anzac Day, the last Monday in May, Memorial Day, and November 11th, Remembrance Day. I'm talking about the red poppy. My name is Howie from How Do We Get Here History, and I'm going to go over the history of the poem that spawned the wearing of the red poppy. Then, the adoption of the poppy by veterans groups, and finally, the red poppy today. The Second Battle of Ypres began on the 22nd of April 1915 in western Belgium, south of the town of Ypres. This battle happened to be the first mass use of poison gas by the Germans on the Western Front. Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae was a medical officer of the 1st Brigade Canadian Field Artillery stationed in a bunker about 2 miles north of Ypres along the Yser Canal. During the battle, McCrae's friend Lieutenant Alexis Helmer was killed and then buried. John McCrae then on May 3, 1915, penned the poem In Flanders Fields, inspired by his friend's burial. Feeling not content with the poem, McCrae crumpled it up and proceeded to throw it away, for it to be picked up and read by a fellow officer. This officer then proceeds to convince McCrae to at least publish the poem anonymously. On December 8, 1915, the first publication of the poem was found in Punch magazine. Claire Gass, a battlefield nurse serving with McCrae, is found to have written down the poem in her diary dated October 30th, 1915, about 6 weeks prior to the poem's first appearance in a magazine. The poem then grew worldwide attention as it was published and translated into many different countries across the world. It was used by the British and the Americans to encourage the fight against the Germans, as well as the use of the poem to sell war bonds. In Canada, the poem was especially popular, in particular with the government in their use of the poem in propaganda as well as encouraging the war effort. The poem became the words that represented the struggle the individual soldier went through and faced in the First World War. American professor Monia Michel dedicated herself to wear a red poppy year-round, inspiration from In Flanders Field, to honor the soldiers who had died in the war. She then campaigned for the American Legion to adopt the red poppy as an official symbol, whilst handing out silk poppies to her colleagues and peers. By 1920, the American Legion had supported Michel's idea and held a convention in which Madame E. Guerin was in attendance. Inspired by the Legion, Guerin set out to sell poppies to raise money for the war orphans in her native country, France. Ahead of the 1921 Armistice Day, Guerin sent poppy sellers to London. Co-founder of the Royal British Legion, Field Marshal Douglas Hogg, took notice of the poppies and encouraged their sale. The red poppy quickly grew in popularity and spread amongst the whole British Empire. The practice of wearing red poppies and their significance remains popular today in many of the former Empire's nations, as well as the United Kingdom. Remembrance Day is celebrated on November 11th by the United Kingdom, Canada, and South Africa, in which they wear red poppies on the preceding days. The Australians and New Zealanders celebrate Anzac Day on April 25th in remembrance of all Australian and New Zealanders who served and died in all conflicts and wars. The last Monday in May is when the Americans wear their red poppies on Memorial Day. Memorial Day used to be on the 30th of May until 1970. In 1971, it was changed to the last Monday of May. Coincidentally, Americans do have a holiday on November 11th, Veterans Day. Legally, at 2:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 minutes of silence is recommended to be observed. 2:11 p.m. was chosen as opposed to 11 a.m. in Britain, so all 50 states and Puerto Rico can participate simultaneously. The Australians and the New Zealanders celebrate Anzac Day on the 25th of April because that was the day the Anzac forces hit the beaches of Gallipoli. Anzac stands for Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. The United Kingdom and other Commonwealth countries, as well as other European countries, participate in 2 minutes of silence at 11 a.m. on November 11th, the same day and time as the infamous 11-11-11 armistice, the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month the Great War concluded. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy How Do We Get Here History. Have a great day.